What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So look, I love a good horror movie that just completely loses the plot by the time the credits roll. And I mean that as the highest compliment. Not falls apart, not gets lazy, just goes somewhere so unhinged, so audacious, so genuinely off the wall that you're sitting there in the dark going, did I just watch that? Did that just happen? That's what this list is. 8 horror movies that are doing pretty well for most of their runtime, and then they swing for the fences. Some of them connect and catch fire in the process. All of them are worth your time. Real quick, streaming availability for every title on this list is in the pinned comment right down below. Go check that out after the video so you know exactly where to watch tonight. All right, let's get into it.
Who are you?
I'm him.
Who are you?
I'm him. My time.
Let's play a little catch.
So Him came out in 2025, and I want to be upfront with you. This is a weird one to explain. On paper, it sounds like a sports drama. Young quarterback, big dreams, legendary retired mentor, remote desert compound, very structured, almost chapter book storytelling. And for a while, that's what you're watching. But Jordan Peele produced this thing, and you can feel that slow creeping wrongness that doesn't announce itself. You're watching this kid Cam train. You're watching Marlon Wayans play this 8-time champion with some serious intensity, and something just feels off the whole time. And then the body horror kicks in and the demonic elements start bleeding through, and suddenly this football movie is doing things football movies are not supposed to do.
In this game, violence is rewarded, so learn to enjoy it.
Marlon Wayans is genuinely unsettling in this. I know that sounds strange to say, but it's true. And Tyreek Withers as Cam carries this bruised, desperate energy the whole film. Is the mythology a little murky? Yes. Are there plot points that don't fully add up? Also yes. But it's got this suffocating atmosphere and a finale that takes real swings, and I respect that. Not a perfect movie, but it's a kind of thing you're still thinking about the next morning, and that counts for something. Under Paris is on Netflix, and I feel like a lot of people slept on this one, which is wild because it is so much fun. On the surface, this is a French creature feature about a mutant mako shark that ends up in the Seine River right as Paris is hosting a triathlon. Marine researcher, useless politicians, a police officer who reluctantly gets involved. Very straightforward setup. And then, this movie just completely and totally loses its mind. I cannot tell you what happens in the third act. What I can tell you is that it starts as a very respectable, very serious Jaws-influenced thriller and ends somewhere in Sharknado territory. Except it earns it somehow. The tonal shift is so extreme that you almost can't believe you're watching the same film. And yet, it works because the movie has been building momentum the whole time. And by that point, you're just completely along for the ride. The practical creature effects are solid. Berenice Bejo as the lead is fully committed even when the film is going places she probably could not have imagined reading the script. The kills escalate in ways that don't make your eyes go wild. It's a bloody, fast-paced, defiantly goofy genre movie, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you want a fun night-in horror pick and you've already seen the obvious stuff, this is an easy recommendation. Look, if you know Art the Clown, you already know whether this movie is for you or not. And if you've never heard of Art the Clown, welcome. I hope you have a strong stomach. Terrifier 3 picks up after the second film, sets everything around Christmas, which is an inspired creative choice, and then just proceeds to do the most outrageous, graphic, over-the-top things imaginable with that holiday setting. There's a sequence in this movie involving a chainsaw and a Santa suit that is just, it's a lot. It is genuinely a lot. The kills in this film push past what the first 2 did, and both of those were already going places most horror movies won't go near. Here's the thing though. David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown is doing something genuinely impressive underneath all of that. It's a fully physical performance, no dialogue, silent film era physicality. People draw comparisons to Buster Keaton, which sounds absurd until you're watching him and you realize, no, that's actually accurate. The man commits completely. The plot is thin, some of the supporting dialogue is rough, and the runtime runs a bit long. None of that really matters by the time you hit the finale because you already surrendered to whatever this movie is doing. If you're a fan of the franchise, you already know what you're getting. If you're brand new to it, just go in prepared. This one crosses lines even by the standards of this franchise.
It's a miracle. You are with child.
Sydney Sweeney produces herself, and she had one very clear vision. She wanted to be a scream queen, and she wanted a final act that nobody would forget. Mission accomplished on both counts. Immaculate is an Italian convent horror movie, and it leans into that setting completely. There's something inherently unsettling about a place that exists at the intersection of extreme faith and mortality, and this film never lets you forget where you are. From the very first scene, you know something is wrong. You just don't know what yet. And Cecilia, Sweeney's character, is this devout, quietly desperate woman trying to find belonging in a place that is hiding something enormous from her. Is it a perfect movie? No. It relies on jump scares more than it probably should, and some of the plot threads don't pay off as cleanly as you'd want. The visual style is a bit flat compared to the Italian horror it's clearly drawing from. But none of that matters as much as that final scene. That last few minutes is so raw and so committed and so flat out unhinged that it reframes everything you just watched. Sweeney doesn't just act through it, she tears through it. And honestly, that's the whole reason this movie exists and the whole reason it makes this list. Hey, real quick, if you're new here and you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button. Costs nothing, helps a lot. And if you've been watching for a while and you haven't liked this video yet, do it now. It seriously makes a bigger difference than you'd think. All right, back to it. 4 more movies to go, and they only get better from here. This one does not get talked about enough, and it genuinely baffles me. Dane Brabinski, yes, the Pirates of the Caribbean guy, made the slow burn gothic mystery in 2016, and it is one of the best looking horror movies of the past decade. The cinematography is described perfectly as a black and white movie done in color. Deep shadows, negative space, this palette of ash and bone and sickly green. Every frame looks like a painting that's actively trying to make you feel uneasy. The setup is Dane DeHaan playing this young, corrupt financial executive who goes to a remote Swiss wellness clinic to retrieve a missing boss, and then gets trapped there. The clinic is run by Jason Isaacs, doing villain work so refined and controlled that it's genuinely chilling. And Mia Goth is there in this haunted, glamorous presence that fits the whole anemic aesthetic of the film perfectly. DeHaan is really well cast. He's got this naturally unsettling quality, kind of cold-eyed, a little milky, and it works for a character who is both the audience surrogate and also pretty complicit in his own unraveling. The film is too long, and that's a real criticism. But where it goes in the finale, the things it reveals, the way it wraps everything together, it sticks with you. One of those movies you're still chewing on the next day. Massively underrated. Going way back now, 1989, and I want to be clear with you, this movie was made on almost no money, it looks like a teen thriller for most of its runtime, and it has one of the most audacious and flat-out bizarre finales in the history of the genre, not exaggerating. The setup is Billy Whitney, wealthy kid at Beverly Hills Academy, popular, dating the head cheerleader, seemingly has everything. And then he starts noticing things. His family feels wrong. His social circle feels wrong. Something is happening underneath the surface of all this affluence, and he can't quite name it. The film plays like a paranoid teen mystery with sharp satirical teeth. It is absolutely skewering the wealthy elite, the way money insulates people from consequences, the way an entire class of people can be completely rotten underneath a very polished exterior. And then the practical effects artist Screaming Mad George shows up in the third act and just completely goes for it. What happens in the finale of this movie is so creative and so visceral and so committed to its own insane logic that 37 years later, it still lands. People who've seen it don't forget it. That's the whole ballgame for a cult movie. Status fully earned.
Please, come in.
Darren Aronofsky made this in 2017 and it earned an F cinema score, which means regular audiences walked out and rated it as low as you can possibly rate a film. And I understand why. This movie is not easy. It is not fun in any conventional sense. It is suffocating and claustrophobic and relentless, and by the time the third act arrives, it is doing things that make you question whether you're watching a movie or sitting through some kind of fever dream. Jennifer Lawrence as Mother carries the entire film. The camera is almost never off her face. You're locked into her perspective, her confusion, her mounting dread as the world around her starts deteriorating in ways she cannot explain. And it deteriorates fast. It starts resembling a Rosemary's Baby-style domestic thriller and then just keeps going, keeps escalating, past realism and into something more like a biblical allegory, or both, simultaneously. Michelle Pfeiffer has a supporting role and she absolutely steals every scene she's in. Javier Bardem is playing this very specific kind of monstrous charisma that works perfectly for what the film is doing. And the climax, I'll just say this, the climax of Mother is the kind of thing your brain struggles to process in real time while you're watching it. One of the most committed, uncompromising, intentionally insane finales ever put on film. Not for everyone. Absolutely not. But if it clicks for you, it really clicks. The movie is Mother.
I can feel her. Oh, she can see me.
Luca Guadagnino remade a 1977 horror classic and did something really smart. He didn't try to recreate it. He kept the basic premise, the settings, some character names, and that's about it. Everything else is entirely his own. And what he made is colder and more political and more genuinely unsettling than most people expected from the director of Call Me By Your Name. The film is set in 1977 Berlin. Gray, rainy, historically loaded, and the dance academy at the center of it feels oppressive from the very first scene. Stone stairways, dark corridors, instructors with this authority that reads as something older and more sinister than just choreographers. Tom York scored it and the music does so much work. Melancholic and strange and never letting you settle. Dakota Johnson is incredible here, and I think people underestimate her in this role because they come in with expectations from other things she's done. She's playing something completely different, reserved but with this quiet power accumulating underneath the whole film. Tilda Swinton plays two characters, one of which required full prosthetic transformation into a convincing elderly man, and she's fully committed in both, just what Tilda Swinton does. And the finale is so operatic and so wildly committed and so genuinely unlike anything else that it's the reason this movie sits at the top of the list. You'll be thinking about it for days. Divisive? Yes. Unforgettable? Without question. The movie is Suspiria. And that is the list. If you want to keep the movie night going, my next video is right up here and it is a good one. 10 of the greatest hard sci-fi films of the 21st century, all on Prime or Netflix right now. Films that respect your intelligence. Go watch it. I'll see you over there.